computer, charger, USB to cam, spark plugs, timing light, knock monitor, spark plug socket, feeler gauges, borescope, extension cord, compression tester, infrared thermometer, multimeter, Lloyd lights, fuel pressure kit, power probe, camera bag. I was asked to tune a boat. It's actually, sounds like it's somehow in the middle of DC or right outside of it. So I got a phone call, caller ID said federal government, and that always makes you cringe a little bit. Turns out they wanted me to come and tune a boat for them. It's an LS swap. I don't know if it counts as a swap. It's actually got Holley EFI in it. I think it's Terminator X. This has been going on for a little while. After all the conversation we've had, I've realized I'm not going to tune a boat. I'm going to troubleshoot and diagnose a boat. So loading everything up here at the end of the day, and then tomorrow morning I'm going to head downtown and take a look at this thing and see what we're up against. That's where we used to buy beer when we were underage. Here's the boat. This thing's pretty mean looking actually. The boat actually came with like an encyclopedia of information. Unfortunately, everything was really vague. It said for a camshaft, it just said high performance. For fuel pump, it just said high flow. Fuel injectors, no idea what's in there. For compression, it just says high compression. So a lot of time was spent trying to figure out what was going on. Actually, I had to pull the fuel injectors out and check part numbers and make sure, verify that what was in there was correct. Ironically, the fuel injectors that were in it are not large enough to support the horsepower that they claim that the boat made. So this thing's had a bunch of issues, and they've been through some motors and trying to figure out what they got going on. Found a few things, waiting on auto parts stores. Hopefully they can get us some parts and we can get this thing up and running. There's the plugs that came out of it. Go for a cruise. Cylinders, make sure they're all running the same. Okay. Got a bad O2 sensor. After an hour drive each way, we finally got a new sensor. Running way better now. Keeps dropping connection with the ECU.
Now it's time to go back in the studio.
All right, pretty successful day, all things considered. We're gonna go back one day next week and we're gonna take it out on the water. That'll give us a little bit more stuff to film and hopefully be a little more entertaining. The current engine's got some things that are a little suspect too, so who knows, maybe they'll we can catch some fireworks on video too and get stranded in the middle of the river. Should be pretty fun either way. All right, it's been every bit of a month or two. Heading back to play with the airboat some more today. The big holdup was the Terminator X ECU was mounted in a way that was gonna get wet. Well, very wet actually. And if you're familiar with the Terminator X's, they're not potted, they're not meant to get wet, they're not water resistant, any of that good stuff. So I told them it was most likely gonna be a problem. I just didn't necessarily know that it was gonna be coincidentally like a day or two after leaving last time. So the ECU's fried. And since everything is drive-by-wire, we switched over to a Dominator ECU. So I woke up early this morning, basically built a calibration file, kind of bouncing back and forth between the Terminator X software and then the HP Dominator software. So built a new file, and hopefully we can just load that up, and hopefully it'll fire right up and we can kind of start right where we left off. So there's some things that were a little suspect before I got involved here. It's running on some pretty low quality 87 octane gas, which isn't necessarily ideal for what we're doing here. They brought somebody in to do compression tests, leak down tests, and had an oil analysis done. Basically, the findings on all of those tests said, you know, we suspect that there's some issues. I pulled plugs, put a borescope down in the cylinders, looked around, see what's going on, and there's some issues going on. So anyways, I'm going to hop in the car, head down to DC. Gonna end up getting seasick before we even get started on this thing. Yeah. All these big crazy cruise ships are just sitting here rotting away because of the virus. It's gonna cost probably millions of dollars to get them operational again. It'd be a miracle if I don't fall in the water. Basically can't even stand up. I feel like I'm gonna fall over. So Terminator X was removed and the Dominator's in here now. Kind of was under the impression it was maybe more installed. Gotta check and see what we got going on. Alright, gonna switch over to NTK sensor from the Bosch. And then got a new, CAN USB cable thing. It's so bright, probably can't see, but basically I gotta wait 30 minutes now for a firmware update. Laying under the dash of a boat that's rocking around is a different experience. Can't find what I want. This whole combo is kind of weird. 5400 RPM max. Everything's kind of built for higher power. And then the horsepower number it was sold at, like it would never make that number at that RPM. I feel like there's no way that this camera is going to show just how rough the water is right now. It feels like I'm jumping up and down 12 feet. Okay, firmware update is finally done. TPS auto set's done. I'm going to try and start it for the first time. I don't remember how to start it. Looks like the starter's not hooked up. Cable's just far enough away that I can't sit here and use the computer, but the actual starter itself was seized up. Alright, let's see if this thing will start. Try to hit the brakes. I think the boat's gonna flip over. You can see I got the fueling basically within like 1%. I think it's about time to go drive this thing. Ride this thing? What do you call it, driving a boat? I don't even know. So right here where we're at, the water is like crazy rough. But apparently, like out on the actual river, based on the other boats they have out there, it's like unbearable for this little tiny thing. So it sort of sucks. Like we kind of debating whether or not we should even bother taking it out. Hopefully we can, otherwise I'm not going to really be able to accomplish a whole lot more today. Whoa. Alright, whoever's big boss man around here said that everything's too rough and they don't want us going out today, so I'm gonna call it quits here. I don't think next week's gonna work out, but probably the following week. Finally take this thing out in the water.
Several months later.
Alright, it's the coldest day in the history of the earth and heading back out at the worst possible time to try and take this boat out on the water and get it situated. There's basically only going to be two outcomes here. Is either I'm going to freeze to death and die, or I'm going to fall in the water and get eaten by a shark. Probably stop and get some coffee to ensure that I poop my pants on the boat. The last couple times I've come out to fool with this thing, I've brought basically every tool I own to attempt to fix any potential problems or whatever. I brought a few things with me this time, but after last time, and trying to do basically anything with the boat in the water, I think if we have any issues, we're just gonna have to pull it back out and try and do it on land. Things kind of, obviously with the water moving around and stuff, it's a bit sketchy and tricky, but it, like all joking aside, would actually be pretty easy to fall off of that thing. That's not exactly what I want to do when it's 20 degrees outside or whatever it is today. Was that you or yeah?
Oh yeah, no, I turned.
Oh,
it
you did. Okay, you didn't make me shit my pants.
Gotta turn it back on.
Hold on. Let me just kind of look over everything a little bit. So basically, what I want to do, especially the track record you've had with this, is like we can just be excessive with it and basically just do that for as long as you feel we might need to. I would like to. I think we brought some spark plugs. I'm gonna throw at least another plug in the back.
Okay.
And then once we throw a plug in it, we'll run it rather than like baby stepping up. We'll just kind of like run it pretty hard and give it 5-6 seconds of running hard, and then basically just come back to an idle, shut it off, and then I'll pull that plug out and look at it.
Okay. Yeah, one of the firefighters welded at that bracket. I took some measurements and made a rough schematic of it, and he fabricated it for me. And that fit perfectly to that module. What's a heavy ass thing? I wouldn't expect that to be that.
It's crazy to me how big they are. Like that computer is like 3 times the size of what's like an average computer. I mean, even the one that came off of this one is far bigger than normal, and that one's even bigger.
When I took the old one off, I mean, I couldn't see the cracks in the casing until I started loosening the bolts up and it started flexing back to how it was, and I could see the cracks in there. Once I got it off, you could hear the water in it, and and then I held it to the side. The water was just dripping out, just like.
The unfortunate part is there's a model like one step down from this that's far cheaper, that's still like waterproof and potted and all that. But because you have the drive-by-wire throttle body, you have to have this model. And then this one model can do like 2,000 times more things than what you're using it for. You're literally not using any of the features of it. But you know, if down the road you decide you want to do something, the options are there.
Yeah, I saw the terminal plugs on it.
Yeah, there's like
all kinds of fun stuff.
But yeah, basically the same thing. You can see that line right there. I know you'd mentioned TeamViewer previously. I don't think we'll need it. It is always a good option. Like if you ever wanted to just have me verify something, or you know, sometimes you go from, it's actually warmed up pretty decently today, but you know, if it's 5 degrees outside and maybe it's off a little bit, you know, we can tweak it up that way without having to come all the way out. But I'm also close enough too that if he wants me to come back out, that's not a problem either. I would say let's do what we did before, where we'll start slow and kind of jump up.
Okay.
And probably do that one more time, and we might be good as far as that goes. And then I'd say at that point it's kind of up to you.
Since you can see how we run this, how long do you think this motor's going to last? Is that just kind of a gamble?
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, you were here the first time when we stuck the camera down in there and you could see the scarring on the walls and stuff. Are you familiar with reading spark plugs at all?
I mean, a little bit.
So basically, if we had any metallic spots or like pitting or anything, that would be really bad. And we didn't even run it enough to have enough heat to get that timing mark on it. So I'd say this time, basically just do the same thing, but we'll just, I don't know, run it for a minute and a half. Or really, like, this is, all of the crap on the computer screen is obviously all the sensors and stuff, and this is the closest you can get to like a look inside the cylinder. And when you do it with an old spark plug, you can't really tell a whole lot. I step out of there, I like immediately start leaning as if I'm going in. So what was the process like when you went out with the other people? You made it sound like you were gone for 30 seconds and then came back.
So that was the big thing that we'd always discuss when we got back, and I even told them, you know, they just wanted me to just rev it up, get it up, and then bring it right back down.
Okay.
And I would explain to them that, you know, hey, we respond, you know, 15 minutes away and stuff like that. This needs to be, you know, high RPM for so long. And then
that reason right there is why my approach to this is so much different. Like I never would have let you guys leave with what they had in. Like they had like, if you're going drag racing for a quarter mile at a time, that's about what I would expect to see. But this is totally different. And this thing's so heavy and there's so much load on it. I need to throw some clothes on or I'm gonna die. I was expecting it to be like a little more like rowdy and scary, but this is...
No, it doesn't throw you back in the sea.
Yeah.
Now some of our boats, those are the ones that'll...
Really?
You know, that's the main problem we're having now is, you know, it's so heavy. Well, we have to have this motor on it, so I'd say if you throw a diesel on it,
Yeah.
just...
It's such like a double-edged sword because it's heavy, so you need the power. But part of the reason why the engines aren't happy is because it's so heavy. It's like it's just like the wrong combination all the way around, in my opinion. If I can find another spark plug, I'm gonna probably try to do a back cylinder on this side.
Okay.
No, I'm not much of a boat guy with all my stupid comments just regarding that thing and stuff.
Yeah.
It's funny how the octane booster just looks like if you looked at this and you didn't know any better, you think it's rust.
Yeah, I didn't realize it. I mean, I've heard it, but I've never seen it like that.
But there's no signs of anything like unhappy, so that makes me happy. So have you ever gotten it to run up and down and back that many times
First time
successfully?
we had it, that was it.
Oh, geez.
That was it. More toys, Sam. More toys.
First up, heading back home. I gotta say that really couldn't have gone any better. Most important thing, obviously, is that it didn't blow up and explode, and it was running just awesome. Fueling was all within basically 1%. And we were running 100% throttle for about an hour and a half, literally not letting off, and just the Holley was just spot on. So super happy with that. So that's the first time actually doing a boat, and I don't know if it was just because it was something different or because everything went so well, but I had a good tour guide for the journey, but that was like the most fun I've had in a while. I really enjoyed that, so who knows, maybe I'll try and find some more boats to do. That's going to be it for this video, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.